This is the story of a young woman full of dreams who set out to see the world, only for her journey to end in the most horrific way. It's a tale that grips the heart, chills the bones, and leaves you questioning just how well we can ever know someone we meet online. This is the murder case of Grace Millane. Grace was a 22-year-old graduate from the University of Lincoln in the UK, a lover of art, adventure, and life itself. She had recently finished her degree and decided to explore the world on a gap year. Her travels took her across South America and eventually to New Zealand. It was there, in the city of Auckland, that everything changed. December 1st, 2018. Grace arrived in Auckland, New Zealand. It was the eve of her 22nd birthday. She checked into a hostel and, like many young travelers, decided to meet someone new through a dating app. That app was Tinder. She matched with a man, attractive, confident, a local. They arranged to meet that night. They were spotted on CCTV around the city, smiling, laughing, sharing drinks. The man seemed charming, attentive. There was no indication of what was to come, no sign of the storm that would follow. Grace's family grew concerned when she didn't respond to birthday messages the next day. This was unlike her. She was always in touch. When she failed to check out of her hostel, alarms were raised. Police were notified. A missing persons report was filed. But by then, it was already too late. As investigators began piecing together her last known movements, they discovered her interactions on Tinder and tracked down the man she had been with. A 26-year-old who, for legal reasons at the time, could not be named. But what they would uncover about him would paint a terrifying portrait of manipulation, obsession, and deceit. He claimed their date went well, that they'd had a few drinks and gone back to his hotel. He said it had been consensual, that she had left his room the next morning, but the evidence told a different story, a much darker one. Police reviewed security footage. They saw Grace walking into the man's hotel that night, but she never came out, not once. Hours later, they saw the man leaving, alone, calm, collected, carrying a suitcase. Investigators searched his hotel room. There they found disturbing evidence. Stains on the carpet, signs of a cleanup attempt, and a room that reeked of bleach. But the most damning discovery was yet to come. Police obtained search warrants for his internet history. What they found was sickening. After Grace had died, this man had not called for help. He hadn't shown remorse. Instead, he had spent the night searching violent pornography, reading articles about body disposal, and researching how long it takes for a person to die from strangulation. His coldness didn't end there. The very next day, while Grace's body lay stuffed in a suitcase, he went on another Tinder date, another woman, another bar, as if nothing had happened. It would take police several days to locate Grace's body. She had been buried in a shallow grave in the Waitakere Ranges, west of Auckland. Her remains were found inside a suitcase, surrounded by dirt and brush. The brutality of it shocked the nation. Her death was ruled a homicide, manual strangulation, a violent, deliberate act. The man was arrested, charged with her murder, and in court, his identity was finally revealed: Jesse Kempson. His trial began in November 2019, and the evidence was overwhelming. Kempson's defense hinged on the claim that Grace's death was an accident, that she had allegedly consented to rough sex. But the prosecution dismantled that argument piece by piece. They presented expert testimony that contradicted Kempson's version of events. Forensic experts stated that the level of force used could not have been consensual. The bruising, the internal injuries, they pointed to prolonged strangulation, not a brief lapse in control. Perhaps most damning of all was Kempson's behavior after Grace's death. He had taken intimate photos of her lifeless body. He had searched for places to hide her remains. He had lied, repeatedly, to authorities. And while Grace's family was in agony, desperate for answers, he was online, flirting, chatting, arranging more dates. The jury deliberated for just 5 hours. In November 2019, Jesse Kempson was found guilty of murder. He was later sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. But the story didn't end there. After his conviction, it was revealed that Kempson had a disturbing history. He had committed multiple sexual assaults and acts of violence against other women, offenses that had not been made public during the trial due to suppression orders. In separate trials, he was convicted on 9 more charges, including rape, sexual violation, and assault. The public was horrified. How had someone so dangerous slipped through the cracks? How had he been able to target so many women before finally being stopped? Grace's case sparked a nationwide and global conversation about violence against women, consent, and online dating safety. Her family, devastated by the loss, turned their grief into purpose. Her father, David Millane, traveled to New Zealand for the trial. He sat through every harrowing detail, and when the verdict came, he wept, not just for his daughter, but for the future she would never have. They described Grace as a kind, creative, thoughtful soul, a young woman who only wanted to see the world and share her art. Her life was taken by someone who saw her as a thing to use, discard, and forget. The case left a permanent scar on New Zealand. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern even issued a public apology to Grace's family, stating, "Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't." But this is more than a headline, more than a trial. It is a sobering reminder of the dangers that can hide behind a smile, of how trust, once given, can be weaponized in the worst possible way. To this day, people still remember Grace Millane, not for the way her life ended, but for the light she brought while she was here. Her legacy lives on in the conversations she inspired, in the awareness her story raised, and in the quiet resolve of those determined to make the world safer. In a world of swipes and likes, it's easy to forget the risks that can hide behind a perfect profile. Grace's story is a painful reminder that evil often wears a mask, and sometimes it only takes one night for a dream to turn into a nightmare.